is appropriate and right and correct that we start this edition of Newsfeed this afternoon with a tribute to the journalist, the analyst, the South African Karima Brown. She's passed away after suffering from COVID-19, and as I speak to you now, her family and her friends are preparing to say farewell to her just a few kilometers from where I am at the moment. And like so many other families, like the profession of journalism, and like you during the time of COVID-19, they're grieving for their loss, for their mother, for their sister, for their daughter. If you followed South African journalism and politics over the last few years, it would be no secret that Karima and I did not agree on everything. But we worked together in various ways over many years, and I can tell you this now, I think, that when I started political journalism so long ago, I realized very quickly she was the person to watch. If I wasn't sure what was happening, I would wait for her to ask a question. I would base my report on the answer that was given to her question because of her sheer knowledge of our politics. I'll never forget, who could forget, in 2008 she published what was easily the scoop of the year, the first person to report correctly that the ANC's National Executive Committee had decided to remove Thabo Mbeki as president. For hours, the ANC seemed to deny it or ignore questions. I was lucky enough to actually be sitting next to her in the press conference when Greta Mantashe finally confirmed it was all true, that the NEC had decided to ask Mbeki to leave office. A lot happened in that time. You and I lived through it together. Jacob Zuma became president. Some parts of our society got angry and furious at him. And even then, she wore her heart on her sleeve. You always knew where Karima was and what she was doing. And when the time came to fight against Claudie Motsoeneng, she was there, leading the protests, making sure that everyone knew what she believed that he was wrong and that he must go. And finally, the last time Karima and I worked together, it was in 2018, 24 hours after Cyril Ramaphosa had become president. We were broadcasting together outside Parliament as the president gave his first State of the Nation address. As he spoke of Tumamina, every single person in the place knew Karima. Everyone wanted to talk to her. Everyone knew what she was doing and who she was. And I think overall my memory of Karima, if I may say, was that she was someone who was passionate, absolutely passionate for our society. As a South African, she fervently believed in fighting for the right thing. Sometimes we forget her entire history. I'm not just talking about her history in the ANC and parts of the movement before 1994. I'm talking about what she did to make the public broadcaster more democratic as the executive producers of its current affairs radio programs, the groundbreaking political reporting that she did in the newspaper world after that. And then, as a woman, as a South African woman, as a woman who had been denied so much during apartheid, she was able to blaze another trail, being one of the few women being seen and heard every week, every day, talking about our politics. Karima, you and I did not agree on everything, but you had my respect. You had the respect of the nation, and we're going to be poorer as a nation without you. Let's look at other tributes now that have been pouring in for Karima Brown. She died of COVID-19 complications. The managing editor at ENCA, John Bailey, has hailed her commitment to the profession of journalism.
Well, Tom, I can tell you this is indeed a sad day for ENCA, but also for the broader South African community. This is somebody who was completely committed to the cause of journalism, and she saw it as a way of also continuing with the activism that she was involved in. She was fierce in her approach, and she had strong opinions, which obviously didn't sit well with some people. But Karima was that person that we needed in South Africa, somebody who didn't think twice about taking on the powerful in our society. And the idea was always to make sure that we address the wrongs of the past, but also those wrongs that are currently being committed in our democratic society. So as said, a very committed person, a loving mother to her son, and also a good friend to us.
Meanwhile, the former editor of Business Day and her colleague, Peter Bruce, has described Brown as a giant of political journalism who contributed immensely to the profession.
What a sad day, you know. She really is a giant in our political journalism, and a friend to many of us. So it's not easy. And I think those of us who've been watching and waiting since she went into hospital around the 15th or 14th of February, have been dreading this moment because she's been on ventilation for a very, very long time. And so it's terribly sad. And I think the best thing to do now is just to celebrate her. Not necessarily to lionize her. She was a political editor on Business Day when I was the editor. She applied for the job. I think she had been at the SABC, and there was no question when she in her interview about who was going to get the job, because she just knew so much more than any of us, you know. And the great question you wanted to answered by your political editor, and it still remains the great question, I think, in our journalism, is what on earth is going on in the ANC? And sort of Karima kind of knew, or she knew better than most of us, certainly me. And, you know, she was a larger than life character, full of fire and fight, impossible and irreplaceable at the same time.
The epidemiologist, Professor Salim Abdul Karim, has also paid his tribute to Karima this afternoon. He's commended Karima for her relentless pursuit of the truth without fear.
I would like for us to observe a moment of silence in memory of Karima Brown, person who struck me even in the interview that she did with me as someone who was feisty, someone who sought the truth and always wanted to ensure that she captured the issues accurately.